Namaskaram, there comes a time in life when you begin to feel that something about you is different. The world does not see it, but you know it. There is a pull, an invisible force that moves you towards something greater. Maybe you do not understand it fully, but it is there, like a quiet whisper in the depths of your being. There are moments in life when everything appears to be in place, your relationships, your work, your daily routines. Yet something within you remains unsettled. It is not dissatisfaction with what you have, nor is it a longing for more in the material sense. It is a silent whisper, an invisible force pulling you towards something beyond what the eyes can see and the mind can comprehend. This restlessness is not accidental. It is a sign that something deeper is unfolding within you. This feeling often begins subtly. At first, it may feel like a simple curiosity, a yearning for answers, an attraction to things you once ignored. You may find yourself drawn to wisdom, to questions that have no easy answers, to mysteries that do not fit within the framework of the ordinary world. As time passes, this curiosity does not fade. Instead, it intensifies. The more you try to ignore it, the stronger it grows. No matter how much you try to immerse yourself in the life you once enjoyed, the feeling does not leave. For some, this restlessness manifests as an urge to leave everything behind and seek solitude. The noise of the world becomes unbearable, not because it is loud, but because it is empty. The conversations that once excited you now seem shallow. The ambitions that once fueled you now feel meaningless. You may still go through the motions of everyday life, but deep down you know something is changing. There is a longing for something greater, something that cannot be defined by words or measured by achievement. For others, this inner stirring appears as an unexplainable dissatisfaction. Even in moments of happiness, there is a feeling that something is missing. You may achieve success, receive praise, and accomplish your goals, yet the emptiness does not go away. This can be confusing because from the outside everything looks perfect. You may even feel guilty for not being content, for wanting something beyond what most people seem to be satisfied with. But this is not a flaw, it is a sign that you are being prepared for something higher. This restlessness is not the same as anxiety or impatience. It is not about wanting a different job, a better home, or a new relationship. It is not about running away from responsibilities or escaping difficulties. It is something much deeper, something that cannot be resolved by external changes. You may try to distract yourself, to convince yourself that you should be grateful and satisfied, but the feeling does not go away. It lingers, whispering to you in moments of silence, calling you towards something beyond what you have known. Sometimes this pull towards the unknown can be unsettling. It can create a sense of isolation, making you feel as if no one around you understands what you are experiencing. You may try to share your thoughts with others, but their responses may not satisfy you. They may tell you to be practical, to focus on your responsibilities, to appreciate what you have. But deep inside you know that this restlessness is not something you can ignore. It is not a problem to be solved, nor is it a phase that will pass. It is a calling, one that does not leave until it is answered. This feeling is often accompanied by a shift in perspective. The things that once excited you begin to lose their appeal. The pleasures of the world, the achievements that society celebrates, the goals you once chased, all of them start to feel insignificant in comparison to the unknown force pulling you forward. This does not mean you reject life. It simply means you are no longer satisfied with living on the surface. You begin to crave something deeper, something more real. This restlessness can sometimes feel like a burden, but it is a sign of transformation. It is an indication that something within you refuses to settle for an ordinary existence. It is a fire that burns away illusions, a force that pushes you beyond comfort and familiarity. The more you resist it, the more intense it becomes. It is not something that can be ignored, suppressed, or reasoned away. It demands to be acknowledged. From a young age, there is a feeling that something about you is different. Even in a crowded room, surrounded by people who know you, love you, and accept you, There is a quiet sense of distance. It is not loneliness in the usual sense, it is something deeper. A feeling that you are watching the world rather than fully being a part of it. Conversations happen around you, life unfolds, but a part of you remains separate, untouched by the rhythm that seems to carry everyone else so effortlessly. This feeling does not come from arrogance or a sense of superiority. It is not that you think you are better or more special than others. In fact, you may even wish to belong, to feel the same ease and connection that others seem to have. But no matter how much you try, there is always something that keeps you apart, something that does not quite fit. It is as if you are living in a world that does not fully understand you, and no matter how much you explain, no one really hears what you are trying to say. You move through life, forming relationships, making friends, building connections, yet a part of you remains unseen. There are moments of laughter, moments of shared experiences, moments when you think you have finally found a place where you belong. But sooner or later, the feeling returns, a quiet reminder that no matter how close you become to others, there is something within you that remains untouched, something that no one else can quite reach. At times, this feeling can be painful. It can make you question yourself, wondering if there is something wrong with you, if you are failing to connect in the way others do. You may try to change yourself to fit into the roles and expectations that the world has laid out for you. You may try to silence the part of you that feels different, to push it away, to ignore it. But no matter how much you try, it remains. It lingers in the background, waiting for you to acknowledge it. There are moments when you feel a strong connection with someone, when you think they finally understand you. But even in these moments, there is a limit. There is only so much you can share, only so much you can explain before you realize that some things cannot be put into words. The deepest parts of you, the thoughts that keep you awake at night, the longing that pulls at your soul, these are things that cannot be fully expressed, and so you keep them to yourself. The world around you operates in a way that does not always make sense to you. The things people chase, the things they value, the things they fight over, it all seems so distant from what truly matters to you. You watch as people dedicate their lives to things that seem fleeting, as they build their identities around things that do not last. And though you try to understand, try to play along, a part of you knows that your path is different. Over time, this feeling does not fade, it only deepens. You may succeed in life, gain recognition, surround yourself with people who admire and respect you, yet the sense of separation remains. It is not sadness, not emptiness, but a knowing, a quiet recognition that you are not meant to be absorbed into the world around you in the way others are. There is something within you that keeps you apart, something that does not allow you to lose yourself in the ordinary flow of life. Even in moments of great joy, moments of deep connection, the feeling does not disappear, it is always there, a constant presence in the background of your existence. You may learn to live with it, to embrace it, even to find strength in it. But it never truly leaves, because it is not a flaw or a weakness, it is something else entirely, something that sets you apart, not by choice but by design. There comes a time in life when the things that once seemed so important begin to lose their meaning. The beliefs you held, the goals you chased, the attachments you built, all of them start to feel less solid, less real. It is not something you consciously decide, it simply happens. One by one, the illusions begin to break. What once felt like truth now seems uncertain. What once gave you comfort now feels empty. The things that once defined you no longer hold the same power over you. At first, this can be unsettling. The mind searches for something to hold on to, something familiar, something stable, but no matter how much you try to cling to the old ways of thinking, they no longer fit. The world around you may look the same, but your perception of it has changed. The desires that once motivated you The opinions of others, which once shaped your decisions, no longer seem to matter. The rewards that once felt valuable now feel hollow. You may look at the people around you and wonder why they are still so deeply invested in things that now seem meaningless to you. They argue over trivial matters, chase after temporary pleasures, and suffer over things that, in the grand scheme of life, do not truly matter. You may try to explain what you see, but most will not understand. To them, the illusion is still real, still necessary, but for you, it is breaking, and there is no way to unsee what you have seen. The structures you once believed in start to crumble. Society's rules, the expectations placed upon you, the stories you were told about what it means to be successful, to be happy, to be worthy, all of them begin to feel artificial. You start to see how much of life is built on conditioning, how much of what people believe is simply inherited from those who came before them. You see how people live on autopilot, repeating patterns without ever questioning them, mistaking comfort for truth. As these illusions break, there is both freedom and discomfort. The things that once gave you a sense of security no longer hold you in place. The identities you built for yourself, the roles you played, the attachments you nurtured, all of them begin to dissolve. You may feel as though you are losing yourself, as though the ground beneath you is disappearing. But in reality, what is disappearing is not you. It is only the false layers that were never truly you to begin with. You begin to recognize how much of life is shaped by fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of losing what you have. You see how people remain trapped in cycles of suffering, not because they have to, but because they are afraid to let go of what is familiar. You see how people cling to illusions, not because they believe in them, but because they are afraid of what might happen if they let them go. As this awareness deepens, your desires shift. You no longer seek to be right, you seek to understand. You no longer seek approval, you seek truth. You no longer chase after fleeting pleasures, you seek something real, something lasting. The external world loses its grip on you, and for the first time you begin to turn inward. The questions that once seemed unimportant now become central. Who are you beneath all these layers? What remains when everything false is stripped away? You may feel a sense of detachment from the things that used to bring you happiness. The entertainment that once distracted you no longer holds your interest. The material possessions that once excited you now feel insignificant. The social games that people play seem exhausting rather than engaging. It is not that you no longer care. It is simply that your priorities have shifted. What once seemed urgent no longer feels relevant. What once felt important now seems trivial. This breaking of illusions is not a single moment, but a process. It does not happen all at once, but in layers. Each time you think you have seen the truth, another layer peels away, revealing something deeper. The more you see, the less attached you become. The more you let go, the lighter you feel. The illusions that once controlled you lose their power, and you begin to step into a new way of being, one that is no longer bound by the falsehoods that once shaped your life. Pain is something no one seeks, yet it finds those who are marked for something greater. It does not come as a punishment, nor as an accident. It comes with purpose, shaping and transforming in ways that comfort never can. There is a unique kind of suffering that follows those who are chosen for a higher path, a suffering that strips away all that is unnecessary and reveals something deeper within. It is not an easy journey, and it is rarely understood by those who have not walked it. This pain can take many forms. Sometimes it arrives as the loss of something or someone you never imagined living without. Other times it comes as an inner turmoil, an emptiness that no external success or pleasure can fill. It can manifest as betrayal, rejection, or a series of failures that shake the foundation of everything you believed in. There are moments when the suffering is so deep that it feels unbearable. Moments when it seems unfair. When you wonder why life has chosen to test you in ways that others seem to be spared from. There is a kind of pain that isolates you. While others go about their lives seemingly untouched by the weight you carry, you are forced to walk a path that few can understand. You try to explain, but words fail. You look around searching for someone who sees what you see, feels what you feel. But the deeper you go, the lonelier the path becomes. It is not because the world has abandoned you, but because this kind of transformation is not meant to happen in the presence of crowds. There are times when the suffering feels endless, when no matter how much you try to rise above it, it pulls you down again. It comes in waves, sometimes as quiet sadness, sometimes as unbearable grief, sometimes as a restlessness that makes you want to escape your own skin. The things that once brought you comfort no longer work. Distractions fail, temporary pleasures fade even faster than before. Nothing numbs it, nothing silences it, because this pain is not asking to be avoided, it is asking to be faced. Through this suffering, something within you begins to shift. At first it feels like breaking, like losing yourself, piece by piece. The things you once identified with, your ambitions, your attachments, your sense of control, are taken away one by one. The more you resist, the more painful it becomes. The more you cling to what was, the more unbearable the process feels. But eventually, after enough has been stripped away, you begin to see something you never noticed before. Beneath all the loss, beyond all the pain, there is a presence, something unshaken, something untouched by suffering. You begin to understand that the pain was never meant to destroy you, but to clear away everything that was not real. It was never meant to punish you, but to prepare you. It was never meant to be a curse, but a doorway. It has been shaping you, refining you, revealing something within you that could never have been found through comfort and ease. The suffering forced you to question everything, to see beyond illusions, to let go of the false and seek something real. Not everyone experiences this depth of pain, because not everyone is meant to walk this path. Some are given easier roads, and that is fine, but for those who are marked, pain is an unavoidable part of the journey. It carves through everything that is unnecessary, burns away everything that is false, and leaves behind something pure, something strong, something that cannot be shaken by the ordinary struggles of life. It is not a process anyone would choose, yet those who go through it emerge with something that cannot be taken away. There comes a time when the noise of the world begins to feel overwhelming, not in the way that loud sounds disturb the ears, but in the way that unnecessary words, meaningless conversations, and endless distractions start to feel like an intrusion. There is a pull toward silence, a need to step away from the constant movement of life and retreat into a space where nothing disturbs what is within. It is not a decision made out of loneliness, nor is it an attempt to escape. It is something deeper, something beyond preference or personality. It is a calling. At first, this pull towards silence may be confusing. The things that once entertained no longer hold interest. The company that once felt enjoyable now seems exhausting. The activities that once filled the day now feel like distractions. There is a longing for stillness, for moments where nothing needs to be said, where no external input is required. The world, with all its demands, continues as it always has, but something within you has shifted. What once seemed important now appears distant, and the need to be constantly engaged begins to disappear. There is a realization that much of what people fill their lives with is unnecessary. So many words spoken, yet so little truly said. So many ambitions, yet so little fulfillment. The more one observes, the more obvious it becomes that much of life is spent avoiding silence, avoiding stillness, avoiding the deeper questions that arise when there is nothing left to distract the mind. But for one who is marked, this avoidance is no longer possible. The silence calls, and it cannot be ignored. At first, it may feel strange to withdraw. Others may not understand. They may wonder why you no longer participate in the same conversations, why you are no longer as reactive to the things that used to affect you. They may think something is wrong, that you are sad, that you are losing interest in life. But it is not sadness, nor is it a rejection of life. It is a shift in focus. The things that once consumed your attention no longer seem worth the energy they once demanded. The endless need to respond, to engage, to react begins to fade. With this withdrawal into silence comes a deeper awareness. The thoughts that once ran wild begin to settle. The emotions that once controlled your actions become easier to observe. There is a space between you and the world, a space where clarity begins to emerge. The things that once seemed urgent are seen for what they truly are, passing waves in an endless ocean. The mind, which was once constantly occupied, now has room to breathe. The heart, which was once weighed down by unnecessary burdens, begins to feel lighter. In this silence, something else begins to arise, a different kind of knowing, one that does not come from books, from teachers, from the words of others. It is not knowledge in the usual sense. It is something deeper, something that has always been present but was never heard beneath the noise. The more one sits in silence, the clearer it becomes. The answers that were once sought externally begin to emerge from within. The doubts that once seemed so heavy begin to dissolve. The search that once felt endless starts to feel less urgent, not because the questions no longer matter, but because the answers are no longer needed in the same way. Silence does not mean the absence of sound. It means the absence of unnecessary noise. It does not mean isolation from the world. It means no longer being lost in its illusions. It is not a rejection of life. It is a way of stepping deeper into it. In this silence, one is not lost but found. In this stillness, one does not disappear but becomes more present than ever before. It is in this space, away from the noise, that something real begins to take shape. There is a longing that does not seem to go away, a pull towards something unseen, something beyond what life appears to offer. It is not a desire for success, nor for love, nor for fulfillment in the ways that most people understand. It is a different kind of hunger, one that no amount of achievement, relationships, or material gain can satisfy. It follows you everywhere, even in moments of joy, even in times when everything seems to be going well. It lingers in the background, whispering that there is something more, something beyond the surface of existence. This longing is not easy to explain. From the outside, your life may appear complete. You may have everything that should, in theory, make a person happy. Yet, deep inside, there is a space that remains untouched, a feeling that something essential is missing. It is not depression, nor is it dissatisfaction with what you have. It is something else entirely. It is as if a part of you remembers something that the rest of you has forgotten, something distant yet familiar, something real yet just out of reach. No matter how much you try to ignore it, it does not leave. You may attempt to fill it with experiences, with knowledge, with purpose, but nothing fully satisfies. It is not that these things are meaningless, but that they do not touch the depth of what you are seeking. For a time, you may convince yourself that the next achievement, the next relationship, the next adventure will bring the fulfillment you crave, but as soon as you attain it, the longing returns, unchanged, unmoved. This pull towards something greater can feel like both a blessing and a burden. On one hand, it keeps you from becoming lost in the temporary distractions of life. It ensures that you do not settle for illusions, that you continue searching for what is real. But on the other hand, it creates a sense of distance, a feeling of not fully belonging in the world as it is. While others seem content with the ordinary, you are left yearning for something beyond it, something that you cannot quite define. There are moments when this longing intensifies, when it becomes almost unbearable. You may look around and wonder why others do not feel the same, why they seem to move through life so effortlessly, while you are weighed down by a question you cannot answer. You may try to express it, to find someone who understands, But words are never enough. It is not something that can be explained, it can only be felt. And unless someone has felt it, they will never truly know what you mean. This longing does not disappear with time. If anything, it grows stronger. It does not weaken with distractions, nor does it fade with age. It is not something that can be reasoned away, because it does not come from the mind, it comes from somewhere deeper. It is as if something within you knows that you are meant for more than just an ordinary existence, that there is a path you have not yet found, a truth you have not yet grasped. For some, this longing leads to a search, a journey toward understanding what it is they are truly seeking. It pushes them to look beyond what they have been told, beyond what society expects, beyond the limitations they once believed were real. It is not a search for answers in the traditional sense, because this is not a question of knowledge, it is a question of being. The longing is not asking for explanations, it is asking for something deeper, something that cannot be given by another, something that must be found within. This pull towards something unseen is not an accident. It is not a flaw or an inconvenience, it is a sign that you are meant to go beyond, that you are not here to simply exist, but to discover something greater. It is both a challenge and an invitation, a call that only a few will hear and even fewer will follow. But for those who do, it changes everything. There is a moment in life when you realize that you no longer fit into the world in the way that you once did. The conversations that used to interest you now feel shallow. The routines that once brought you comfort now seem empty. The places where you once belonged no longer feel like home. It is not that anything outside of you has changed, life moves on as it always has, but something within you has shifted, and because of that, nothing feels the same. This sense of separation is not something you seek, it simply happens. It is not something you choose, it is something that unfolds on its own. One day you wake up and realize that you are no longer drawn to the same things, no longer motivated by the same desires, no longer willing to participate in the same illusion. The laughter that once felt natural now feels forced. The distractions that once entertained now seem meaningless. The attachments that once defined you now feel like chains. You begin to feel like an outsider even among those who have known you for years. You sit in a room full of people, yet feel as if you are somewhere else entirely. You listen to their words, but they do not reach you in the way they once did. It is not that you no longer care, it is simply that you no longer relate. The things that seem to matter so much to them now seem distant to you, as if you are watching a play that you are no longer a part of. This feeling of separation can be painful at first. There is a part of you that still longs to belong, that wishes you could simply go back to the way things were. But no matter how much you try, you cannot unsee what you have seen, cannot unknow what you know. You may try to force yourself to engage, to participate, to fit in once more, but it is no longer natural. The connection that was once there has been replaced by something else. A quiet understanding that you are on a different path. There is a loneliness that comes with this realization. The people around you may not understand why you have changed, why you no longer respond in the way they expect, why you seem distant even when you are present. They may ask what is wrong, but there is no simple way to explain. How do you tell them that the things they chase no longer interest you? How do you explain that your silence is not sadness, but a reflection of something deeper stirring within you? How do you make them see that what they call reality now feels like a fading dream? This sense of being set apart is not a punishment, nor is it a rejection of the world. It is simply the natural consequence of seeing beyond what others have yet to question. When illusions begin to break, you cannot pretend they are real. When truth begins to rise, you cannot return to falsehood. This separation is not something to fight against, it is something to understand. It is not isolation, it is a sign that you are being prepared for something else. As time passes, this feeling of separation shifts. It no longer feels like loss, but like clarity. It no longer feels like loneliness, but like freedom. You begin to see that you were never meant to fit into the world in the way that others do. You were not meant to follow the same patterns, to chase the same dreams, to live by the same rules. You were meant for something different. And while that path may not always be easy, it is the only path that feels true. There is a reason you no longer fit into the places where you once belonged. There is a reason you feel different, a reason you cannot go back to who you used to be. It is not because you have lost something, it is because you are becoming something else. And though the road ahead may be uncertain, one thing is clear: you were never meant to stay where you were. You were meant to go beyond. There is a kind of guidance that does not come through words, a direction that does not come through maps, a knowing that does not come through learning. It is not something that can be explained, nor something that can be logically understood, yet it is there, shaping events, leading in ways that often make no sense at the time. It moves through circumstances, through encounters, through moments of stillness, quietly pulling, gently pushing, ensuring that you are exactly where you need to be, even when you do not realize it. At times, this guidance feels like an invisible force, arranging life in ways you could not have planned. A door closes and another unexpectedly opens. A chance meeting changes the course of your journey. An obstacle appears, forcing you onto a path you would never have chosen, only for you to later realize it was exactly where you needed to go. It does not always feel like a blessing when it happens. In the moment, it may seem like confusion, like failure, like a loss. But in time, when you look back, you see that there was something else at work, something beyond your own efforts and decisions. There are moments when this guidance comes as an unshakable feeling, an inner knowing that defies reason. You stand at a crossroads faced with choices that all seem equally valid, yet something within you pulls in one direction. There is no logical reason why, no external sign that it is the right choice, yet the feeling is undeniable. If you listen, if you follow, you often find that it leads you exactly where you needed to go. If you ignore it, if you choose what seems safer, what seems more practical, you may later find yourself trapped in a situation that feels wrong, as if you have gone against something deeper within yourself. Sometimes this guidance comes through struggle. What you desperately wanted does not work out. What you thought was meant for you slips away. It may feel like a failure, like a mistake, but often it is protection. Often it is redirection. What seems like an ending is sometimes a beginning that you cannot yet see. If you were given everything you desired exactly when you wanted it, you might never find what is truly meant for you. There are times when being denied what you think you need is the greatest blessing, though it rarely feels that way in the moment. There are also times when this guidance comes through people. Someone enters your life at exactly the right time, with exactly the right words, with exactly the right energy to shift something within you. They may stay for a lifetime, or they may disappear as quickly as they arrived. Some come to teach, some come to challenge, some come to remind you of something you had forgotten. And when their purpose is fulfilled, they leave, sometimes without explanation, sometimes without closure. It is not for you to hold on to them. It is for you to recognize that they were sent for a reason, and that reason has been fulfilled. This kind of guidance does not always make life easier. If anything, it often leads you into the unknown, into discomfort, into places you never expected to be. But the more you trust it, the more you follow, the more you begin to see that nothing is random, that even the moments of doubt and difficulty are part of something greater. When you resist, when you try to force life to move according to your own plans, the struggle intensifies. When you surrender, when you allow yourself to be led, the path unfolds in ways that no amount of planning could have created. For those who are marked, this guidance is always present. It may not always be obvious, it may not always make sense, but it is never absent. The more you pay attention, the more clearly you begin to see its presence in your life. The more you trust, the less fear you have of the unknown. Because when you understand that you are being led, when you realize that nothing happens without purpose, uncertainty no longer feels like a threat. It becomes part of the journey. And in that there is a kind of freedom, a kind of peace that cannot be taken away. In life, there are certain signs that indicate you are marked for a higher purpose, a journey that transcends the ordinary. These signs often come in the form of experiences that challenge, transform, and guide you towards something greater. You may encounter deep pain that reshapes you, a quiet pull towards silence that awakens a new awareness, or a longing that keeps you searching for something deeper. You may find yourself growing apart from the world around you, no longer fitting into places where you once belonged, and yet this separation is not an end. It is a beginning of something new. Along this path, guidance appears when you least expect it, often through moments of struggle, through people who cross your path, or through a quiet knowing that directs you when reason fails. Though the journey may be filled with uncertainty and discomfort, it is precisely these experiences that lead to the uncovering of your true self. Every twist and turn serves a purpose, even when the reasons are not immediately clear. The process of being marked for a higher purpose is not a simple one. It is one of awakening, growth, and profound transformation. You will be tested, stretched, and sometimes broken, but in those moments, you will find the strength, clarity, and direction needed to step into the fullness of your destiny. Embrace the signs, trust the guidance, and know that you are not alone on this journey. You are being prepared for something greater, something beyond what you can see, and in that trust, you will find peace and purpose.